Wow, what a wonderful turnout. That's really terrific. Was any of you at my presentation yesterday on quantum mechanics? Excellent, good. That means that you didn't all get running away and thinking, my God, this guy is a complete idiot and he's boring, which is good. In fact, interestingly enough, I got a message from my wife earlier on today because I accidentally sent her a message on Instagram and I didn't realize it was the middle of the night in England. And she turned around and she said, well, it's fortunately I'm awake so I can take your message. But she said, but you're not here to make me go to sleep. Because ordinarily she turns around and says, if I need to sleep, can you just tell me about your theories or read bits from your book? And she literally goes to sleep incredibly quickly. So I hope I don't put you all to sleep on this. Because one of the central themes that has fascinated me ever since I was a child is the mystery of time. Now, very, very famous great thinker, St. Augustine, said many years ago, when he was asked what time is, he thought he knew what it was. And we all do this. You don't think about time and you think, well, we understand fully what it is. But then you start to think about it. And suddenly it becomes one of the most mysterious things you can ever imagine. Now, I wrote this book around about 12, 13 years ago. And I wrote about 380 pages. And I am still sure that even after 380 pages and reading dozens, scores of books and articles, I still wasn't sure I understood what time was. So I'm hoping that really after this presentation, you may at least have an idea and appreciation of what time is. And I'm hoping that if I run through it quickly enough, we can probably have a Q&A session and a general discussion on that. Because when I do my presentations, that's the bit I really enjoy. It's the audience feedback and us actually talking to each other and pondering the greater mysteries of life. So, usually software doesn't work for me, so we'll see if this does work or not. Let us hope so. And I'm still learning how to use this because it's a Mac, which I'm not used to. Okay, this is the book, The Labyrinth of Time, The Illusion of Past, Present and Future. And I was specifically with my publishers, I wanted to use the term illusion. Because time is a perception. It's also something that's physically out there in reality. But it's not something that's tangible and physical. You can't hold time in your hands, but you all know it's passing. But the question is, are you flowing through time, or is time flowing past you? And indeed, the greatest question that used to worry me as a child is what exactly is what is the present moment? Because if you think about it, the past has already gone and therefore doesn't exist. And the future is an anticipation and also doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. And then we have to calculate how long is a moment. Is it a second? Is it the 10th of a second? Is it a millionth of a second? Because every time we focus on the moment, it moves, doesn't it? You try to focus on it, but that's already gone. It's already, by the time you've thought about it, it's in the past. So suddenly already time starts to twist and play with your mind in so many different ways. For instance, although I don't talk about it in this presentation, I'm already off piece, but I do this. You know, the idea that your feet age quicker than your head. Because time goes faster, the stronger the gravitational field is. And of course, the gravity on your feet is greater than your head, so therefore your feet are actually older than your head. Which is, again, quite extraordinary when you suddenly think about this. And then you think about what the time would be like on the surface of the sun with its gravitational field. Time would be completely different. Has anybody seen the movie Interstellar? Do you remember the sequence, you know, when they go on the water planet and how long they're down there for a couple of hours and it's years for the guy that's going round the planet? And these are the central things about time. Time is very strange. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to dig into a lot of the issues now as quickly, because we've got more time than we did with my quantum physics one, so I can be more leisurely and more rambly. Oh, let's see. See, I already did this and said St. Augustine. He was St. Augustine, Bishop of Hippo. And he says, what then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain to him who asks, I know not. Time, apparently, is the most used noun in the English language. We use it all the time. As I said again, so we're using a concept we all seem to understand, but we don't really understand. We just know there's a past, a present, and a future. But what exactly is time? How much time can there possibly be? And they've calculated something fascinating. There was something called Jules-Henri Poincaré, who was a French physicist. And he decided how much is the greatest amount of time you can possibly imagine. And he said it's probably 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10.11 years. So that's 10 followed by 10 zeros, and that's multiplied by another 10 zeros and multiplied by another 10 zeros. That is a huge number of years. And the argument is what happens, that's when the universe, every single atom in the universe, goes back to the original position it was in. So imagine a scenario that you have in a room, a single particle. Now, if this works, it'll be great, and if it doesn't run, it's not a problem. Yeah, okay, so you have a single particle in an enclosed room. So that particle is in one position, so there's only one particle in the universe. And it'll start moving. So it'll bounce around the area over and over again until it returns to its starting position. Okay? So that's for one particle in a room. So then if you had more than one particle, and this is where I have to go with the film, so I have to just wait happily and hope that it will start again in a second. If there are many, many particles in the room, as there are in here, you know, there's trillions and trillions of atoms in this room, all of which are moving around. So then you have to calculate the position of each of those atoms, all with their random movements. It's like a billiard table, you know, and all the balls. And when they all end up back in their starting position, effectively the universe has gone back to its original condition. It's gone back to its starting point. Now, again, I mean, all I'm doing here is showing that a house or a planet or the world. Now, Poincaré argued that if that is the case, given enough time, every particle will go back to the original position it was in. Which means that time repeats, doesn't it? Everything we perceive now, there will be a time in the great distant future when every single molecule in this room will come back to its original position in your bodies, in my body, in the chairs, in the tables, and everything else. And time will repeat. So it means that time is cyclical. So rather than saying that there's a continuation of time, it goes round on itself. And in an eternity, because of course we've no idea how much time there really is available, all these particles will come back into the same position an infinite number of times. Which means that every incident in your life, if you wait long enough, you'll come back again, so you'll be reborn. Your particles will reconfigure you at some time in the future. Which means that in the infinite universe, you will exist and live this life many, many times. It's called the eternal recurrence or the eternal return. And this is a philosophy that's been used for many, many years. And it works mathematically, as we've just seen here. The only caveat on this is if the universe isn't enclosed, but we have to assume that there is an edge to the universe, because the universe has been expanding for 13.4 billion years. So effectively from the Big Bang, and of course again, the Big Bang wasn't big and it wasn't a bang, but you know, that's just terminology here. But effectively, every single subatomic particle that exists in the universe now, and everything that makes you up, and everybody else you know, was all in a point position in space 13.4 billion years ago. And suddenly, for no apparent reason, from absolutely nothing and nowhere and never when, something just exploded and appeared. And remember that before the Big Bang, there wasn't even any time. Time was created by the Big Bang. So there was no time, there was no space. So everything that exists just spontaneously appeared and then expanded outwards at an incredible speed. In fact, the scientists have argued that in order for us to the way that we can see the observed universe, the universe must have expanded hundreds of times faster than the speed of light for a period of time before it actually got anywhere. And this is extraordinary. So when people turn around and say nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, that's not technically true. The universe can expand faster and did expand faster than the speed of light. So though we have already some very, very curious things to think about. Are you all with me still? Good, good. Nobody fallen asleep? Well, if you'd fallen asleep, you wouldn't respond to what I just said, would you? So this is the concept of the eternal return or the eternal recurrence. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche, who was a German philosopher he lived from 1844 to 1900. He wrote a series of books, and one of his main books was called The Gay Science. And in this, he uses Poincaré's recurrence that I was talking about before to suggest that we all live our life again. Exactly the same life, over and over again. He turned round and he said, imagine that a demon sat on your shoulder and it turned round and said that you're going to live your life over and over again, exactly the same every time. And he said, first you'd gnash your teeth and you'd say, this is really awful. This is the most awful thing you can imagine. But then Nietzsche turns around and says, but think about this. If you're aware of the fact that you're going to live every instant of your life again and again and again, and you're aware of it, that focuses you to make sure that you live this life as perfect as you possibly can. Because if you didn't, you'd know for all eternity you'd have to go through all the pain and all the things you create in your life. And Nietzsche's weird logic was that actually liberates us. Now, I've always had an issue with that, and I have my own hypothesis, which I call cheating the ferryman, which takes that and makes it far more liberation and far more liberating, which we'll come on to later if we have sufficient time. But that is Nietzsche's idea of the eternal recurrence or the eternal return. Now, the eternal return is something that you'll find in many, many religions across the world. It's virtually universal. Even the Hindus have something called Kali chakras, which are circles of life. And we just go round in circles and we come back and we do it again and again and again. Because effectively this means that this gets around the mystery of death, doesn't it? You know, you don't actually die, you just go round and you live your life again.